morning, goddammit. Piss and vinegar day. Who gives a fuck? Back and forearms. This video was going to be, it was live narrated, but like this video is so bad quality. I keep fucking up my camera. I don't have like the exposure right, or it was blurry the other day, so I don't know, fuck it, whatever. But this is my second back day of the week. This is my sort of back day, just to get a bit more protein synthesis and a bit more progressive overload until the next hefty, full-on high-intensity back day. But basically, this new theory of training that I've come up with is working very fucking well. And it isn't neurological adaptations, because I'm still doing the same old exercises, and they're very stable exercises that don't require much technical efficiency. Because yeah, if you change to if you change from a leg press to a squat, even if you're advanced, you're still going to get a shit ton of technical prowess and neurological adaptations to come with that, which will make you think any programming works. But this is undeniably working very well. On what time frame, I don't know yet. Things can be adjusted as I go. If connective tissues are a problem or progressive overload ceases, then yeah, I'll change something. But as of right now, it's working real fucking well. And there's a few different reasons it's working really well. But the first one is understanding that, again, when you are not a Dorian Yates on steroids with impeccable genetics who's been training for 20 plus fucking years or 12 years or whatever the fuck it was he trained for, yeah, high intensity requires more rest than, plenty of other forms of training, debatably rather. But you won't need the same amount of rest as a Dorian Yates who was incline pressing 400 fucking pounds for reps in his prime. You won't need the same amount of rest as a Mike Mensa who'd been training for 15 years, who was very strong in his own right. On top of that, these are genetic fucking elites who, regardless of what they did, because of their genetics and steroids, they're going to get big from any fucking thing. This isn't to say that just once a week high-intensity training won't get you big. It got me big and strong too. But what's more optimal? Training with more frequency. The more frequency you can get away with whilst having connective tissues feeling okay and progressive overload at the same rate, then you're mathematically going to get more gains. It's irrefutable. You cannot argue the point. If you can get away with more frequency, then you fucking do it, because you'd be stupid not to. If you can get 100 back days in a year than 50, that's better gains all the time. So this shit's working really well. I'm progressively overloading at a fucking very rapid rate. And I'm in a weight cut right now. I'm losing weight. Granted, obviously, I got injured. So, the systemic strength loss and muscle size from the bicep tear. But ultimately, I think I've retained a lot of my mass everywhere other than my left arm, obviously. A lot of it is just I just kind of got a bit chubbier. I gained a bit of fat because I, just after the tear, I was just eating a bit shittier and training not as hard and all that shit. And I wasn't tracking progressive overload for the first 2 months. So I lost a bit of strength, lost a little bit of muscle, but nothing to the degree where the progressive overload would be this fucking quick. And I think it's going to stick for quite some time. And I think it's because rather than gaining, a little bit of muscle for the first few days after training and then losing potentially half of those gains after 7 days, and missing out on 3 to 4 days of protein synthesis, now I'm getting entirely all the time anabolism throughout most of the muscles that I'm progressing twice a week. And just the way it's formed. And I think I might make a video more fleshed out in my exact program right now, because I probably don't have enough time to really sink into the nuances of why this programming works so fucking well. There's a lot to think about in this programming, and it won't necessarily work for everybody. But I spent a lot of time thinking about this and came to the conclusions by just doing it that it fucking works. So, yeah, you can train high intensity more frequently than a Dorian Yates or a Mike Mensa would tell you otherwise. You just can, especially if you are natty and you are, not massively advanced yet. And even then, you could probably get away with a lot more frequency. So, yeah, it's working really well. And I'll probably come out with a video soon on how I'm going about it. I already made a video a week or two ago about how to train. Can you train high intensity twice a week? Which I sort of covered the principles of what I'm doing, but not the specifics. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that, and you'll get a general idea of how to train high intensity twice a week. So now I'm doing biceps here. I haven't trained biceps with intensity for 4 months now, since the bicep tear. So today was the first introduction to that. I haven't trained my right bicep much at all, but I thought, all right, I'll bring it back now. And the left bicep I have been training, but I haven't been training with much intensity. It's just been like a frequency thing where I get blood flow into the muscle. But now I've tried going to absolute failure today. I tried a few different things. Lower rep ranges just wouldn't work because the tendinopathy is too intense, and certain movements didn't work. So, just like the video I talked about yesterday, if you have a tendinopathy, in the case of a fucking, previous bicep tear, it's serious tendinopathy. Don't do movements that hurt. Do movements that don't hurt. I don't like high reps, but I did high reps because lower reps hurt. I didn't even go to total failure here because I got to 25 reps and that was the range I was wanting to go to. So next session I'll progress it. But sort of just introducing my biceps back into my pull days now. I'll only do biceps once a week as of right now for my right, but my left I'll do it maybe twice, maybe even 3 times because it's just so unadapted and weak and fucked up and it needs more blood flow. So yeah, there's a lot going on in my training right now. It's all over the place. It's quite complicated if you don't really know what I'm doing, but the principles themselves, once you understand the principles of what I'm doing, it's really quite easy and simplified. Once you understand the difference between indirect stimulus and muscles that have indirect stimulus and muscles that don't have indirect stimulus, the muscles that are type 1 dominant and can take much more damage and frequency, what muscles are smaller enough to recover quicker, all those different things, then you can start doing high intensity with a lot more frequency, I think. And I just wish I did it earlier because I was being dogmatic and just taking Dorian Yates and Mike Mentz's, the gods of high intensity's word for it, rather than thinking critically. You have to sit and think critically and look at the data and then apply it to yourself. Because if you don't, you'll just be a sheep. And that's the thing. I don't think Dorian Yates wants you to just follow him like a sheep, right? Dorian Yates says things very absolutist. He will say certain things like, you only need 1 set once a week for calves. And it's like, all right, no, you don't. For you did, because Dorian Yates had impeccable calf genetics. But one set once a week for me for calves means no growth in the fucking least bit. So he'll say things absolutist, but many people will say things absolutist. But then if you were to say to Dorian, hey, look, I'm like you, I want to think outside the box, what do you think about that? Dorian Yates would say, go for it, man. Dorian Yates isn't dogmatic in the sense that you hear him talk, and the whole man's existence is thinking outside the box, not appealing to authority. Back in the 90s when he started back in the 80s actually, when he started training, everyone was doing fucking 3-hour workouts twice a week because that's what Arnie did, volume through the fucking wazoo. He had some critical thinking and went, why the fuck would I do that? Let me try this shit. Did high intensity, and it worked impeccably well. So in the case of someone now seeing what he did and going, there's something to that, but I'm not Dorian Yates, I'm not as strong, I'm not as genetically gifted, I'm not on steroids, let me adjust this for what I need. And I think, if you would have a conversation with the Mike Mentzer or Dorian Yates about this sort of thing, you could probably, with enough data, enough scientific data, and enough nuance of being natural and not being as strong, convince them that maybe their ways don't work 100% optimally for everybody, and that's fine. Nor will my ways. If my ways improve your training, that's great. But then maybe in 5 years you stumble across something even better than my way for your specific needs. But either way, what I'm doing right now is working very well, and I'm happy with that. Now I move on to forearms here. And the fucking forearms, they're all right. This is the only thing where I'm not gatekeeping. All the other body parts, my right side, I'm doing a lot of gatekeeping. I'm just maintaining the muscle so that I can get the strength equated, because I don't want to keep progressively overloading my right and then my left side never quite catches up. I'd rather just keep it at certain rates so then I can then go back to bilateral training, because I don't like training one arm at a time. It's boring and it's redundant. But with the arm wrestling training, well, in arm wrestling, you already do unilateral training anyway because it's more sport specific, and it's easier to ascertain progressive overload because one arm might be a bit lax. And then in my case, obviously my left arm's way fucking weaker, but I don't care. And I don't care if I have a bit of muscular imbalances between my forearms. It would look like I'm a chronic masturbator or something, and that's fine by me. Because my left forearm has always been smaller than my right, actually, because I'm a chronic masturbator. Now, it's actually because I started doing fucking nucleus overload training with my right forearm for 3 years when I first got into arm wrestling, and now I have much more myonuclei in my right forearm than I do in my left, which means it's just a little bit bigger. It was always about an inch bigger. Now it's more like 1.5 inches bigger, but that's fine. I really don't care too much. It's more the torso and the upper arm that I care about being back into balance with strength and size. But in the forearm, I don't care. I'm still progressively overloading the right. And yet again, this new form of training, 2 sets, 6 to 8 reps rather than higher rep ranges so I can recover quicker. 2 sets to failure, blasphemous, I know. With twice a week frequency, it's fucking working really good for my forearm strength. I'm not going to lie. My previous bulk for my arm wrestling training, I didn't get a whole lot of progressive overload, actually. I got a fucking heap of it in my side pressure training. But I started kind of stalling out, if I'm being honest, with just once a week high intensity training on my forearms, because it's a small muscle that recovers quick. So protein synthesis is not uptaked as long. Muscle damage might be, but myofibrillar addition won't be. So I was like, all right, well, arm wrestlers seemingly fucking train their forearms every single day. So that's another thing. More frequency, a little bit more intensity on a smaller muscle gave me way more strength gains, which is great for arm wrestling. Anyway, that's it for today. Peace out. Bye.